When you're connecting with other people that are like you, that are growth minded, and you both share an industry and share a business model, like it really helps you grow. Your business is the sum of the 5 property management business owners you as a business owner are most connected to. Welcome, DoorGrow property managers, to the Property Management Growth Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing in business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow property manager. DoorGrow property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. We're your hosts, property management growth experts, Jason and Sarah Hull, the owners of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. All right.
Woo.
So first, you'll have to excuse if I sound a little nasally today because I have a cold, which doesn't happen often. And I might have given it to Sarah. I don't know.
My sinuses just feel weird.
So
thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Okay. So
appreciate it.
You keep kissing me. I'm not kissing you. Like, I'm not trying to get you sick.
He's not kissing me.
She can't resist.
Does anybody believe that? Nobody believes you. Nobody should.
I'm sick. You keep coming up to me. I'm like, you want this? Obviously she does, guys. Obviously.
Oh, brother. All right. What a great episode. What a great kicker offer.
So I might be coughing and I apologize. All right. So what we're talking about today is we thought we'd give you a little bit of behind the scenes into us creating an event, in us doing DoorGrow live, getting prepped and prepared for this. You know, we put an entire year into getting this thing going and getting this prepared and promoting it, finding speakers. And so let's chat a little bit about some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is kind of everything that really goes into it behind the scenes, that when you go attend an event, you just don't notice. You just don't like realize a lot of the times, unless you're used to running events. And once you start running an event, you go run one event and then you will attend every other event differently. For example, when we go to, Aaron's events or Funnel Hacking Live, my brain is constantly going, like, operationally, this must be a nightmare. How on earth are they coordinating all of this? It's just insane, because I know how crazy it is with our conferences, and we don't yet have thousands of people there. We will at one point, but man, there's just so much that goes into it. So if you're ever considering running events, and I think that for property managers and for anyone who is a real estate agent or investor, I really think events are something that you should at least look into. And it doesn't have to be this big, crazy event where, you spend $25,000, $30,000 like we do. And that's kind of like a low budget, That's like, you'll blow through that real quick. It doesn't have to be anything like that. And it definitely doesn't have to be this, this big, crazy promoted thing. You can do your own version of events, like in a very different way. Back when I was in property management, we would do some little networking events, and they were nowhere near the size, but also nowhere near the cost, but they could be really beneficial for you to do. So I think if you haven't experimented with that, then maybe get some tips and pointers and check it out. Like, try it, experiment, and see what happens. Because for me, it was really great to just be connected. So there's that saying, your net worth is in your network. And I think being able to just connect with people, make sure that people know who you are and what you do, it's really valuable. So if you're a property manager and you haven't done a little in-person event yet, then perhaps you might want to try. And we're going to talk a little bit about, what goes into like a bigger event, the way that we run them. So why don't you give them some background? When was your first DoorGrow Live? Was pre-Sarah, the pre-Sarah DoorGrow age. I think, was it 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk about, what was the first DoorGrow Live like?
Oh man. Yeah. And if you want to get a visual of this, you can go to, I think it's photos.doorgrow.com. And we have photos of all of our different major events. You can go back to 2018 and there's a nice photo of me and Mike McAllowitz there. And so we brought in some big, for me, they were big speakers, some people that I really looked up to and that I got a lot of value from. So coach, authors, people that I had worked with. And so it was a big deal. I think we spent about $115,000 putting that event together because I wanted to do it right. I didn't want my first event to be Mickey Mouse or cheap or, whatever. So I wanted to do a really good job. And I thought, well, and we'll sell tickets to make up for it. We did. We sold about 115 tickets at around, I think, $1,000 a pop. And I have a whole podcast episode I did on this. I call it my $2 million mistake because we were growing at a pace of, we were doing about $1 million in revenue a year. And we were growing at a pace of about 300% at the time. We were growing really quickly. We had a lot of momentum. And I decided to do this big conference. And it was a little bit of an ego thing. Like it was like kind of a dream that I wanted to feel cool and be on stage. And it was super stressful. The event went really well. People liked it, but I was massively stressed during it. And then I didn't do another one for how many years? I don't know.
Yeah, that was his
2
first
years.
and only, and like canceled it.
I was like, I don't think I'll do that again.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize everything that goes into it. I'm sure people were watching me start my first conference from the sidelines. I have done events in the space where like, good luck, bro, because they know how hard it can be. It's like starting a whole nother business. But you have to recognize there's like the hotel. It's hard to do an event that's not at a hotel. So you kind of have to do it at hotels. And so they have this like sort of, they're like the mafia. They have this control over doing events. Like, and you go to them, you're like, I want to do an event here. And they're like, cool. And then like finances become a thing and they negotiate a group rate with you, which means you have to book certain number of rooms because they want you to book rooms. And if you don't book out the group rate for the rooms and the room block, then you're responsible to pay for that. So we were on the hook for like a lot of money for rooms. I'm like, well, how many rooms does that mean? And like how many nights and all this stuff. So just managing finances for an event is like managing finances for a dangerous business startup is really what it is. Because people have gone bankrupt from doing big events, really big events where you have 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. These are millions and millions of dollars in and out.
Yeah.
And if they don't navigate this well, it can bankrupt companies.
Russell just said that on stage. He didn't say who, but Russell Brunson said that he knew someone that was running a big event, didn't sell enough rooms in the room block, and he went bankrupt from it because it was such a large event. He was on the hook for so much money and it ended up bankrupting the company.
It's dangerous. And then you got to get people to buy the ticket, book the hotel, and then there's marketing to do this. You got to spend a lot of money to get people to do this. And then, in order to attract people, sometimes people will do like big speakers. Like I got some speakers, and let me tell you, speakers, they're expensive. Like usually they want thousands and thousands of dollars.
Like an inexpensive speaker, just to like put it out there, like an inexpensive speaker is still usually around like $5,000.
Anyone you've probably heard of is minimum 25 grand.
Well, more than that.
And if they're a big name, it's 50K,
it's
100K.
Like 6 figures.
It can be really expensive.
Yeah.
To have them come be at an event. So it can be really challenging. Then there's food and beverage minimums. So the hotel, they're like, you also have to spend a certain amount on food and beverage while you're here. So they're like, you have to book a certain number of rooms. You have to like pay for a certain number of food and beverage, and you're not allowed to bring any other food or beverage into our place.
Nope.
You have to use our stuff. And our stuff is like going to the movie theater. It's overly priced, like inflated.
Remember, we did the Game Changer event at the JW Marriott in Austin.
Yeah.
So I looked at everything afterwards, and it was not a huge event. It was not a big event. We had under 20 people there.
Yeah.
And that included like Jason, myself, DoorGrow staff, speakers, like under 20 people, and one lunch. And it was a 2-day event. So we did like 2 lunches. So one lunch, I think, was somewhere around like $2,000 or $3,000. Yeah, it was insane for lunch.
At my first event, we spent 8 grand to provide coffee for 2 days. 8 grand
Coffee. Yeah.
for 2 days. Like, and,
Yep.
and you know, and they have all these rules. I think the rules are made to inflate the price, but they have these food and beverage, and they charge you sometimes by plate. So at that hotel that we were at, our first event, we didn't realize this, but they had people to go around and pick up plates, and you're paying by the number of plates people use, like how much food they consume and by plate. So they were
Oh
picking up
my
plates. It's a
god.
racket. Like if you go into this not knowing what you're doing, some hotels can take gross advantage of you.
Wow.
They negotiate a terrible group rate. They negotiate a horrible food and beverage minimum is really high for you. And then you go way over that minimum if
Oh,
they
yeah.
have anything to do with it. And so you're spending all this money and they're like, well,
You'll never have to worry about hitting your minimum in food and beverage, like, never.
no,
It's
really.
I mean, if
Usually
you
don't.
want
They
food
find a
there,
way to make
period,
money. Yeah.
like, you're gonna hit it, so I don't
So
care. I don't even care what my minimum is because it doesn't honestly, it doesn't even matter.
yeah. So then people think, oh, well, then I'll do the event somewhere else. Well, if you do it somewhere else, then how are they going to get from where they're staying to the
Mm.
venue?
Mhm.
And so then there's a logistical challenge. So then like people aren't like coming, and it's just like it's so much easier if they walk. So everything gets like complicated when you don't do it at the hotel.
Where was your first event? Where was it?
It was in St. Louis at an old classic
Oh,
hotel. It was really beautiful.
okay.
Um,
Interesting.
Yeah, we did in St. Louis. We did it at this hotel, and we did it because we thought we'll make it easy because NARPM had an event around the same time. So we're like, oh man, we want to do it at the same time. So let's just do it at the same venue. I think we did it at the same venue, but we booked a nicer room on the top floor with lots of windows. It was very cool. And it was on different days. So you could attend both. We
Mm.
thought that would give us some cross pollination,
Uh-huh.
and really it didn't. Like there were a few people that went to the NARPM one and came to ours, but
Yeah.
it was like so small. So that didn't even really help. We're like, yeah, it's so easy. Just stay a little longer and go to ours.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the first DoorGrow Live, he decided, I think when I came on board, he said, I'm never doing another event again.
Yeah, I just didn't want to go with it because
Yeah.
it was so
There's just so
stressful.
much. And your whole team, that's the real part of it is like your whole team is involved in it in different ways. Unless you have someone specifically handling
Sales,
event
marketing,
planning.
advertising, planning.
Mhm.
Like every role we had in our business that we needed for our business had to go towards the conference because
Yep.
we were now on the hook for, I can't remember, like 50, 80 grand or something with the hotel. We had to figure out how to get rooms booked. We had to figure out how to pay for speakers. It was a whole thing. It was like starting a whole nother business. And our main thing was no longer the main thing. So our business stopped growing. It actually didn't grow for several years after that, like a couple of years after that. And that's why I call it my $3 million or $2 million mistake, but it was probably a bigger multi-million-dollar mistake than that because there's a lot of money I could have made over those years extra. We're not hurting by any means, but that really slowed things down. And I just chalked that up to being the price of tuition in business. I made a mistake. I didn't know. And I learned from it, right? And I didn't listen to my mentor. Alex was like, make it a really small event. Make it really small. Do your first one, make it small. I'm like, no way. I've been to so many events. I'm going to make this awesome. I want this, if I'm going to compete with all the other events that are out there, I want this to be the best. And I really think like we had the best food there. We had the best, like everything was the best. We had audio visual team. We had a stage set up. Like we put a lot of money into this and it was pretty awesome. Like it went pretty well. But I was massively stressed during the whole event. And yeah, but people that went, they gave us good feedback. They had a good experience. So, which I'm glad. Then you got to like ticket sales is hard too. That's a tough challenge. How do you get people to give up what they're doing to come do something else? And so, we've created some really strong magic, I think, at DoorGrow. Like our in-person events, there's just something magical about our events. There's more heart, there's more connection. It changes lives. And that's very different than what has happened in the space. And I think that's more just about who we are and what we bring and the type of speakers that we bring in. It's very different than just property management. And yeah,
So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is so you did your first event. It went well, but it was pretty
we
crazy.
basically broke even.
Decided we're not doing another event. I came on to the business a couple years after this, and there's still a lot of like trauma and PTSD
Oh,
associated
totally.
with it.
I
And
still have it.
then we started talking, well, what if we do another event? And he said, no, no, I don't want to do another event. And I said, well, what if we do it differently? So we did bring DoorGrow Live back after that first conference that they did. And we've done several of them since then. We have another one coming up in May. It's May 16th and 17th. It's a Friday and Saturday at the Kalahari Resorts in the North Austin, Texas area. So if you're watching this and you have not yet registered, then definitely go do that. You can go to doorgrowlive.com. But we've done several of these events since then. And one of the reasons that we wanted to bring these events back, especially even though for Jason it was just so traumatic, we just needed to do them a little differently. So the reason that we wanted to bring them back, though, is because everything is just so much different when it's in person. And we know that there's so much magic that can just happen. If we can get people in a room, it's not just going to another conference. So in the industry, there's a lot of conferences. I mean, there's tech conferences and like all the big, softwares have their own thing, and there's NARPM events, and there's all kinds of things like this. And DoorGrow Live is just different. It's different than all of those things. We're not trying to focus on, hey, what are they doing, and let's duplicate it. Focused on how can we provide like such a great experience and such great value and real connection in a like large group environment, which is hard. Like that's a challenge. If you're like, okay, we're going to get 50 to 100 people in a room and we want them to all be connected, that's hard. But I think that our events do actually a really great job at that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we get great testimonials. We have a really cool venue. We just decided to keep doing it at this Kalahari Resort. It's near our house. It's in Round Rock. They treat us really well there. It's like we have endless room to grow there. We could have thousands and thousands of people someday if we wanted to. There's plenty of room there.
But they're great to work with, and the rooms are nice. When you guys book a room, the rooms are nice. Everything is right on property. It's very family friendly too. So, if you want to kind of bring your family, and usually I've noticed sometimes people, when they go to the conference and then their family stays at home, there's a little bit of like, oh, you're leaving me with the kids. And like, what is this? Like, you get to go off to a conference, and well, come with us, and you guys can hang out at like the water park and the Build-A-Bear and the restaurants and the like arcade. And there's so much
America's largest indoor water park.
Yeah. And I think when you book a room, they include a ticket.
Yeah, you get a ticket to a bunch of cool stuff. So like you get a wristband. Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty fun place. Like there's a whole Facebook group just for people looking for deals and discounts to stay at this resort. Yeah. They're like always talking about it in that group. I've joined all the local groups just to see what's going on. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So yeah, we've got a really cool venue. And the other thing places have charged us for, other places we've done some of our events, they charge us for electricity. They charge us for like just having cords put down.
And internet.
They charge for internet. They find a way to charge you for everything at some venues. And so not all venues are equal. So yeah, so we've really appreciated the Kalahari Resort in Round Rock. It's a cool resort and they treat us really well there.
Yeah, so. And it's a great experience for people, because that's really frustrating when you go into any kind of hotel and you're like, oh, why is this where I'm at? I guess I'll be here because the conference is here. But outside of the conference being here, I would never book here. And this is not that at all. Like people like to book here for sure. I think now let's do our little demo and then we'll get back into it.
Got a little sponsor for today's episode, KRS Smart Books. Do you have properties to manage and zero time for bookkeeping headaches? KRS Smart Books is your secret weapon. They specialize in finances for busy property managers like you with 15 plus years of real estate know-how and skills in Appfolio, Yardi, and more. Imagine monthly reports magically appearing and zero accounting stress. Sound good? Head to KRS Books. The K is in Kansas, R is in Roger, S is in Sam. Books. Sarah's already dying. She's like, you didn't do the right military phonetic.
I really am dying inside.
KRSbooks.com to book your free discovery call. Integrity, quality, and a dash of bookkeeping brilliance. That's KRS Smart Books. All right, how should I phonetically do KRS?
K like Kilo, R like Romeo, S like Sierra.
All right.
There we
Sarah,
go.
by the way, is becoming a pilot. She's
C-section.
taking pilot flying lessons.
I've known the
Why
military
is the
code.
camera blurry?
I
All right.
don't know. I've
So,
known the military code for years because I used to work in a casino, and that's how they would communicate in
okay.
the slot machines.
Yeah. All right.
But now it's also handy being a pilot.
Okay.
All right. So if that sounds good, I think it sounds really great because I know a lot of property managers struggle with bookkeeping, and that's usually not something that's fun for property managers. It's definitely necessary, but oh man, it's not fun and it's really draining. So if you can find someone that's great at what they do and you can allow them to handle that and just kind of check in and make sure things are going well, then whoo man, life gets a lot easier.
Yeah. If you're not paying attention to the finances or the financial health of your business or your accounting, you're probably getting stolen from. It's just, I've seen it happen so many times. So
Get a great bookkeeper.
Yeah.
There
Make
you
sure
go.
you have people you trust to take care of that. Okay.
So speaking of finances, let's talk a little bit about what kind of goes into an event. So for example, we have our DoorGrow Live coming up in May this year. So we have been working on this event now since, so our last one was in May. And then I think we started working on the new one in like June or July. So things that have to kind of happen just to be able to have the space. Obviously, you have to look into venues. You have to, look at the space, make sure it's going to work for the size of your group, which means you kind of have to estimate a little bit what it's going to look like, and then make sure that the room can fit more or less if needed. You've got to
negotiate with the hotel.
Yep. You've got to negotiate what the rates would be. Am I paying for the space or am I paying for the room block and the food? Because there's different ways to do it. So you've got to figure out, well, how many rooms in the room block do I need? Because if you overestimate that, if you go, hey, I think I'm going to have 1,000 people come and 100 people come, it is not going to be a good time for you because every room in the room block that is not sold, you are financially on the hook for. So you get to pay for that. And it's a certain number of nights. So it's not even so much how many rooms, it's how many nights someone will book. So you want to track that along the way. And then you want to start looking at a lot of the tactical things that go into it, like, well, who is going to speak at the event? So you want to start looking at speakers. And when you're looking at speakers, you start to think about, who would our audience resonate with and what kind of value would they provide? And, is this strategic and tactical stuff, or is this like mindset and empowerment stuff? Because you kind of want to get a mix of both at each event, because everyone who comes to an event, they're looking for a different thing. So it's really impossible to satisfy everybody, make sure everybody, is super happy with everything. Sometimes people say, oh, I wish there was more of this, and oh, I wish there was more of that. But you kind of have to do like this balance and mix to make sure that everybody gets something out of it and that they have a great experience. You also want to build a little bit of fun into it so that it's not just, hey, show up to this conference, sit down, learn something, take some notes, and walk out of the room. We've been to events like that before where it's like, okay, that was a lot, but also, man, it would have been really cool to like do something fun and, connect with people. So you want to, start to build in some time so that people can connect with other people, So are you going to do a mixer? Are you going to do some sort of networking event? Are you going to, go do kind of some fun event before, like the night before? Are you going to, send them off to lunch together? What is that going to look like? So that they can really connect with each other, especially when you've got a room full of people who are in the same sector, in the same industry. There's so much knowledge in that room. So just talking to other people in the room is really valuable and making connections. So there's got to be some room for that as well. And then you want to think about, well, are we going to have any vendors or sponsors? And are those vendors or sponsors people that have services that are valuable and that we trust? Because there have also been times where, someone had wanted to sponsor us and we did not want them to be a sponsor. Because if they don't provide a great service, can you throw some money and be in the room? Yeah, but if it's not the right person to be in the room, then that matters. That
Yeah.
matters a lot.
Hmm.
So we have turned down money. We've turned down sponsorships. So then you also have to think about all of the tactical things. Well, am I doing round tables? Am I doing classroom style? Are we doing full circles? Are we doing semicircles? Like, what is the front of the room and what's the back of the room? And where are the vendors going to be? And what doors do people walk in and out of? And as soon as they walk in, what is the first thing that they see? And what direction do we want to go in? And are they crossing over our equipment? Is somebody going to trip and fall on all the 10,000 cords that we have like taped down?
Yeah.
And then you have to also think about things like your AV. So does the room have internet? Is there power in the room? And I know that seems like a silly question to ask, but guess what? Sometimes they charge you for power. So you would think, hey, there's power in the room, obviously, because like it's at a hotel, they obviously have electricity. Yeah, but do you have to pay for it?
Yeah, and AV is expensive. Like we rented it initially and it was so costly.
Yeah.
For the price you could rent it for, it made sense to just buy it. And so we eventually bought all our own equipment, but that means now we have to set it up and we have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, so there's always a challenge,
before the actual conference, like before anybody even steps foot like on property, Jason and I and several members of our team are there setting things up.
Sometimes my kids.
Yeah. Sometimes the kids, sometimes an assistant, sometimes Maddie comes
We're hooking
on
up
in.
lights. We're plugging in audio equipment.
Yep. So we like pack everything up in Jason's SUV. We drive it over. We unload it. I'm doing this in stilettos, mind you, because I'm a stubborn.
You do everything in
stilettos. That's what I am. Right. So we get there, we unpack it. We have to set it all up. We're making sure that like all the lights are working. The sound system has to work because there's no point in having a microphone if it's not going to work. There's always technical errors, and I'm horrible with technology. So Jason is our tech person, and he is the only tech person that we have. So he gets to figure everything out. And then it's like, is the screen working and can people see it? And is the laptop connecting to the screen? And is it blurry or is it too big or too far? Like there's always these weird little issues that happen, and I don't know how to solve any of them.
Yeah.
So Jason knows how to do that. And then there's the other things like, well, what about swag? And, are we doing a registration table, and who's going to be there to, check people in and make sure they know what to do and they know where to go? And, is there like just kind of first come, first serve seating, or is there like a separate section for, special clients or VIP clients or speakers or the team? And there's also things like, oh, well, what about name badges? Are we doing name badges? Are we, making sure that everybody kind of knows who everybody else is? Is there anything special, or is it just like a bunch of people walking into a room and then hopefully they figure out that they're in the right room? Like there's so much that goes into it. And then there's the scheduling. So, well, who's going to go in what order, what day and time are certain speakers available? Because just because they commit to an event, it doesn't mean, oh, I can speak at any point during the event. So, it's putting the agenda together, and how long do you give them for lunch, and where are they going for lunch? And are we doing lunch? Or are we, letting them facilitate it on their own? Are we doing breaks? How do we get them back from breaks? Are we? It's crazy. Like there's so much.
If you give people a break at an event, it's like 30 minutes of downtime.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard to get people to like get to the next thing or come back right away. And they all start talking to each other, which is cool. They want to network. Yeah. So getting people back from lunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And then it's, who kicks off the event, who opens it, who closes it, who's going after lunch, because we all know most people, what happens to them after lunch. They're tired. I'm fine. But a lot of people, they're tired after lunch. So you can't have a, more mundane or quiet or low energy speaker after lunch. You just can't, because you'll lose everybody.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into the scheduling as well. And then there's things like, who's going to MC it, who's making announcements, who's making sure that everybody knows where to be and what time and what to do and when to come back, and who's doing the intros for speakers. Are you doing music for every speaker that comes up? If so, like, are they picking it? Are you picking it? What happens? Like there's so much that goes into it. And then after you like run the event, then you got to break it all down. If it's your equipment.
Yeah.
So then it's like pack it all up and put it away and make sure nothing gets damaged or lost, and repack the car and unload it again. And like there is so much that goes into it. And I would say at this point, it's funny because Jason now can show up to DoorGrow Live, and 9 out of 10 times he has no idea what's going to happen or when.
I love it.
I just call him up on stage and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay."
because
And I'm like,
my
"Okay,
team
you're
handle
talking about
most of it.
this? Go."
Right now, I still just have to make sure the tech stuff all works. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, I don't have to do as much, which is nice. But it's stressful enough. It's stressful enough. So yeah, so it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's been worth it to have, to see people's lives change, to see people impacted. We've noticed there's some sort of magic that happens that when people come to something in person with us, even if they've been a client for years, they start to get different results. They start to see things differently. They start to absorb all of our content, our information, our training material, our ideas more effectively. Everything just magnifies.
Mhm.
There's something about in person. You can't get the same sort of benefit in your business. If you think all I need to do is read books and watch videos and show up to Zoom calls to grow my business, look, there's a lot of benefits in all of those things. I do all of those things, but we still go to in-person things. There's something different about in
Uh-huh.
person that I don't know if it's the energy of being in the same space as the people you're learning from, if it's the group energy and that group mind that makes you able to like learn and faster. There's some, I don't know, it maybe there's some quantum physical magical stuff, but there's something different about it in person. It's happened too many times for me to like
Dismiss
believe
it.
otherwise or to
Yeah.
dismiss it. I've had too many clients that I've been working with for years go to their first in-person thing with us and then they have some breakthrough and I'm
Mhm.
like, what? And they tell me about it and I'm like, I've been teaching you that for years.
Yeah.
Like, I know, but like
But
it's
it
just
hit
it
differently
yeah,
this
I just
time.
got it.
It hits different and it feels different
And,
and you just absorb things
because
so
we've seen
differently.
this pattern, we now make it part of our onboarding of every new client to come hang out with Sarah and I in
Mhm.
person for a 1 day with usually a small cohort and like, and just get some things figured out and dialed in their business. And that's been magic for our business.
I
Like it's
know.
been
It's
magic for
been
our
so
clients,
good.
magic for us. So we give them that in-person experience early on. And then DoorGrow Live allows them to connect with others, which is, there's just something different about the people at DoorGrow. The property managers at DoorGrow are different. I've been to a lot of conferences, a lot, like in various industries, but especially in property management. And there's something different about the people that we attract and the clients that we attract. They're growth minded, they're positive active in mentalities, which means they're not like these skeptical, negative Nancy's that are grumpy about the industry and the business. That there's this positive, growth minded, healthier sort of personality that we attract at DoorGrow. And maybe that says a little bit about who we are because that's what I try to be. But we attract amazing people and the connections people make. When you're connecting with other people that are like you, that are growth minded, and you both share an industry and a shared business model, like it really helps you grow. Your business is the sum of the 5 property management business owners you as a business owner are most connected to or that you're most influenced by. So look at those property managers. If you've got coaches or mentors and they're not people that you really like, that maybe you think they're smart, but you don't really want to be more like them, then maybe you're around the wrong people. Maybe you have the wrong coach. And I'm not the coach for everybody. Sarah's not the coach for everybody, but you should have a coach. Otherwise, you're selling yourself short. If you're not accountable to anybody, you're definitely getting less results than you could or should be. So come to DoorGrow Live, come check us out. This DoorGrow Live, I want to open our playbooks up. If Sarah lets me, I want to just
Mhm.
reveal some really amazing stuff that only our clients get to see because I want to show anyone that shows up that's not part of our DoorGrow ecosystem. Our clients know the magic's there. We have more case studies or testimonies than anyone else in the industry. But if you're not a DoorGrow client, and you want to come to DoorGrow Live, I'm going to give you some gifts for sure, some magic. We're going to make some significant changes in your business. They're going to help you make a lot more money, a lot more easily, and keep a lot more of your profit. And so come hang out with us. You're not going to be disappointed for sure. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. This event, we've got some really awesome things planned. We can't let too much out of the bag at this point, but we always have some really great things planned. And
Mm.
every event we do, like we always learn from it. We always do like a little team meeting afterwards
Mm-hmm.
and we get feedback from people. We're always looking to make it better and better. And this year is absolutely no exception to that. So the things that we have planned for this year, like I know that if you come to this event, it will change your business and it will change your life. And I know that's a really bold statement,
Yeah.
and we're ready to back it.
Yeah. And maybe that could be a later podcast episode as we get closer to the event, but we can tell you a little bit more about what's going to be happening there. But hopefully this was interesting to get behind the scenes at all that goes into DoorGrow Live. And we meet on this, we're
Weekly.
talking about it weekly,
Mhm.
monthly in our planning meetings, and quarterly. And so, and that's it for today's episode. So if you are interested in that, go check it out at doorgrowlive.com and get your tickets and get things booked and get ready to come have an amazing experience in May at DoorGrow Live. So, and until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.